We're really doing this. How's it going, guys? Runner Poker here, and yes, it's finally time. The hair is going. I figured there's no better way to do this than to share it with you guys while covering a session that I played. And so we're going back to school soon, and I figured there'd be no better way to start the year off than cutting it. And so what am I gonna do with it? Well, I will be donating it. I will include the place that we are donating it to right here. And I think it's going to be a really good way to go out. If you're new here, I'm a 2-5 No Limit Texas Hold'em player based out of the Daytona Beach Racing and Card Club. And today, I've got an absolutely monstrous session, making so many good hands, but some coolers coming along the way, so be warned. This is going to be an emotional session. Strap in. You saw the title of this video. We're going to waste no time getting right into the bread and butter. We've got Queen Jack of Spades in the small blind. It's folded to James on the button.
Wave hi, James. This is James.
This is James. No, that's Michaela. This is James, aka Brainiac. He's a good friend that's appeared on the vlog before, and we got tangled in some big pots today, so you'll be seeing more of him later.
Hello, my buddy.
Who's raised to 20. The small blind versus button range is going to contain a lot of 3-betting, so we bump it up to 60. Interestingly, the big blind calls, and then the button folds. So I don't really know what range to put the big blind on, but we get a pretty jig-tastic flop with 140 in, heads up, that comes Jack, Jack, 7. I assume the big blind's going to have a lot of pocket pairs in this range, so we down bet to 40 for value. Surprisingly, though, the big blind races to 100. Definitely not going to go anywhere with trips here, though, so we make the call. I think I do have to worry about ace-jack, though. Heads up to a turn that comes the 6 of spades. We check to our opponent, and they announce all in for about 350 or so. I think if I was better, I could find a fold here, but Monkey Brain has trips. Monkey Brain not going to fold. We make the call. Monkey Brain then rewarded, and we see a Queen of Hearts on the river boating up. We show instantly, and our opponent shows pocket 7s for the flopped boat for a cooler flop trips versus flop boat. I sucked out. If you think that was gross, just wait till later. It gets worse. Jeez, I thought it was smaller than it was. For this next hand, we're fortunate enough to find ourselves with my favorite hand in the game, Jack 10 suited in the hijack, facing a raise from, you guessed it, James. We made it 30. We call, as does the cutoff and the big blind. So 4 ways, 120 in to a board that comes ace, 7, 8. Checks the PFR, who checks, and I think that we could take the lead here with some thin equity, but I don't really like, semi-bluffing into big multi-way pots. So I check, as does the cutoff. We're getting a free card, and it comes a queen. We're now double-gutted to a king or a 9, giving us 4 more outs. Checks to us again, and again, I think you could take the lead here, but I decided to just take the free card and check. And the cutoff checks for a second time. Final card incoming, and it's a 10. Well, we do improve. We've got a pair now. The big blind decides to come out of their shell and bet 100. And then James raises to 250. Makes our decision pretty easy. We fold, the cutoff folds, and the big blind snap calls. James confidently announces Broadway for going runner to beat what I can only imagine was 2 pair. Guys, if you want the power to be able to go runner in big spots, you need some runner poker merch. Again, if we can get enough interest in the comments section, I will start selling merch. It's up to you guys.
He says you're not what we need for this job.
We then went on to win a surprising number of smaller pots, the ones where you just c-bet a flop or a turn and take it down. Kind of like this hand, where we've got pocket 5s under the gun, short-handed, make it 20 to go. Folds back to the big blind, who is, you guessed it, James. He makes the call, heads up, 40 in to a flop that doesn't really matter. We bet 10, he calls, turn doesn't matter. We bet 35, and he folds. So, yeah, a lot of pots like this in this short period of time, and it's nice to just have like a bigger stack for maneuverability in these spots.
They just like to do the
Fine, right?
it's just annoying.
After winning those small pots on the must-move table, we get moved to the main game, and this is a big table. No more small pots. People are here to play for all of it. Right when we sit down, we get one of the best hands in the game in the small blind. That's right, it's pocket jiggities. There's one limp, and we decide to bump the action up to 30. Big blind folds, and the limper calls. Well, heads up out of position with 60 in, we flop a monster as there's a jack in the window, but it's followed by a queen and a 9, so the board is still pretty dynamic. This board is going to favor our range more than our opponent's though, so as played, I decided to bet 20 for value. Our opponent calls without too much hesitation. The turn card brings a pretty interesting card. It's the Ace of Spades. At the time, I thought this card was worse than it really was, since it doesn't really improve any hands that weren't already there. All it really does is create another flush draw and put another over on the board. I think that you probably should be betting bigger here, but nevertheless, in the spot, I decided to bet 50. Unsurprisingly, our opponent raises to 150. I wonder if you could ever 3-bet this turn. I decide that might kill our action, so I just smooth call. Really hoping for a clean river here, and not only is it a clean river, but it's arguably one of the best cards in the entire deck outside of a 4th jack. It's the 9 of Spades. A lot of lower 2 pairs made lower boats than ours. The flush came in, and it's just a really good card. Unfortunately, we don't have the betting lead. I kind of cringe, play and flow, and check, and luckily for us, our opponent bets 250. Now, we're both pretty deep for this game. We've got about like 1.2k behind each. I think a jam is just kind of a little bit too big, so I decided to make it 600. Unfortunately, our opponent announces that they have 2 pair and folds. And honestly, I'm surprised they even bet that river with 2 pair, but I'm certainly glad they did. Nevertheless, we're taking down a fantastically large pot with one of the best hands in the game. Thank you, Brad Owen, for lending us the power of jiggities.
God. Ow, ow. That's you. There you go.
Keep the jacks coming. This time we've got ace-jack offsuit in the big blind. There's 3 limps to us, and we make it 40 to go with the best chip throw you'll ever see. The cutoff is the only caller who's the same player from last hand. So we're going to go heads up out of position with 90 in to a board that comes queen, jack, 8. This is a really interesting board, and although we should have the range advantage here, this opponent has been tilting and steaming off a little bit. So I want to let them hang themselves, and I just decided to take the check call line for this entire hand. We check, and without hesitation, they bet 25. We call. Turn card incoming, and it's a 10. Now, a 9, any 9 makes a straight, which I think we do have to be worried about since their range could contain some bluffy 9s here. So we check, and they bet 55. Again, I'm just going to call down a little bit lighter than usual, so I make the call. River card incoming, and it's just about one of the most interesting cards in the deck. It's the 9 of diamonds. We now play the board. I really consider donk leading this card, as we do block the nut flush, and our range should contain many more kings here. I decide, though, that I actually want to go for a check raise, as I think that would be a little bit stronger. We check, but unfortunately, our opponent checks back. They're also playing the board, and our suspicions were confirmed as they show 7-5 of hearts for a very tilty pure airball bluff that managed to scrape by with a chop.
And who doesn't love a good chop?
Oh, goodness. Remember how I said it was going to get worse? Yeah, it's time. This time, we've got queen jack offsuit in the cutoff, and we left to go to the bathroom and missed our big blind, so we posted an extra $5. With that extra dead money out there, I decided to make it 30 to go. The button, who's the only caller, is James, as the blind's full. heads up out of position with 60 in, and we get a very familiar flop of Jack, Jack 8. Once again, flopping trips with the jacks. As if we didn't learn anything from before, we down bet to 20 for value. We get some deja vu, as we get raised right away to 55. I don't think there's much to do here, other than call. Turn card incoming comes at 10. Now, along with our several boat outs, we now have some straight draw outs. We check, and our opponent puts us in a kind of tough spot with a bet of 120. I think if I was better, I may be able to find a fold here. But I'm not, so I call. Final card incoming. Can we improve? Can we seal the deal? Well, we do improve, but it's a 9, so we make a straight. We check to our opponent, who puts us in a really tough spot with a bet of 225. You know, I think unfortunately we're just going to have to call here, because now we do beat Ace Jack and King Jack. We're pretty much just losing to 8s.
Yeah. 225.
God, this has to be like exactly 8s, right? Oh, man.
Well,
You have a house?
You're a monster, man.
Jesus Christ. You get that in the river too. You got a jack.
Nice hand, man.
Queen Jack?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exact same hand. I kind of just tossed in the crying call. And once again, we're coolered. So our opponent shows us exactly pocket 8s for once again being behind the flopped boat, flopped trips. Back to back, twice in the same night, getting out flopped. Dang, what a cooler. We still got one. Blowing off some steam, we find ourselves in the small blind not too long after a pocket 10s facing a button RFI to 25. Definitely going to 3-bet here, but I thought the raise was to 20, so I make it 65. Definitely should be a little bit bigger, but it's a raise nonetheless. Big blind folds, and the button calls. Heads up out of position with about 130 in to a board of King 8-6. The king favors us, the other two cards more favor the button. I decide to just down bet again, make it 50. And oddly, out of nowhere, the button min clicks it back to 100. I don't even really know what kind of hand does this, right? Super weird. I decided that, like, there aren't a ton of hands here that make sense that we're losing to, so I just decided to float and make the call. I'm just kidding. I knew what the turn was going to be. We just find a magic 10 on the turn. We checked our opponent, but sadly, they check back. Our hand just keeps getting better and better as we fill up on the river. I place a bet for 175, trying to get our opponent to call with anything, but unfortunately, they fold. Alright, so we had to move inside. I'm sure the acoustics are a bit worse in here, but it was just getting too hot outside. My hair was getting too frizzy, so I mean, we covered all the hands outside, but I guess I'll just do a speed run cut montage here. A sped up cut montage, you know what I meant.
Hi, it's Michaela, the professional stylist you see in the video. Just kidding, I actually know nothing about cutting hair, but donating it is super easy. The process will vary slightly depending on what organization you choose to donate to, but basically you just put the hair into a bunch of ponytails. Smaller ones take longer, but they're definitely worth it if your hair is shorter like Alex's was. If your hair is long enough, you can probably get away with just a few thicker ponytails or braids. Just make sure that the hair is long enough for whatever organization you use, or else they may not be able to use it. If you're more worried about the finished look than we were, you can probably find a local salon who will handle the cutting and donation process for you. We chose to do it at home and then go to a salon for a touch-up afterward. The organization we chose to donate through also has a form that you send in with the donation, so they can send out a thank you certificate and confirm that your donation was received. Once you have all that, you just put all the hair into a Ziploc bag and send it out. The organization we use said to send it through regular mail, but just double check with whatever organization you choose. The organization we chose to donate through is called Children with Hair Loss. They only require a minimum of 8 inches of hair to donate, and they never charge any child for a wig. Every child sponsored by this organization receives a new hairpiece every year until they turn 21. They also accept financial donations, so all proceeds from this video will be going to them as well. You can find all their info in the description down below.
This is where we are now. I'm gonna touch up the face a little bit, but this is the new look of Runner Poker. So How's it going, guys? This is the final look, what I will be going with. So, this is the new face of Runner Poker. Super excited to keep bringing you guys content. Here are the session results from today, of course. I mean, just absolutely killed this session. Even though we suffered that many coolers, we still finished up pretty close to $900, which, like, that is just so crazy. That is awesome. Anyway, like I said, guys, just super excited to keep bringing you guys content. And as always, keep your body healthy, keep your mind healthy. This is Runner Poker. Have a good one.
Please like and subscribe to Alex.
You heard the man.
He deserves it. Look at this dude. Look at this dude.